Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to the Be a Better You Annual Challenge Day 225. Today we are still working on emotional health and well-being, and we're going to talk about how to use the EGS, Emotional Guidance System, to become a better version of ourselves through emotional health and well-being. So I'm going to share a 5-step process to apply the emotional guidance system. I'm going to share 2 people's examples of how they did it and the impact it had on their lives. And then I'll talk about how do you add this to your daily life? How do you make this an everyday thing and a habit so you don't have to consciously think about it all the time and you're continually improving on autopilot? My favorite, doing things that are positive habits that make my life better and help me to be a better version of myself. So, what are these steps? Number 1, you have to know and identify and name your emotional state. What emotion are you experiencing right now? For me, I use frustration as we went through the SOAP framework. And frustration, as you will recall, is all the way down at 10. It's the number 10 on the scale that I printed out. Hopefully you grabbed a graphic of the emotional guidance system that speaks to you, that you will feel comfortable using as you work through this 5-step process. So first, we got to figure out, where are we on the list? Now, I'll use frustration for me because that was a 10. Now, I have been dealing with frustration my whole life, right? We all feel frustrated. And mostly I discovered that, as upon self-reflection, it was because of the way I was defining frustration. I would ask something 3 times, because it's hard enough for me to get myself to ask for anything. I would ask 3 times or ask somebody to do something 3 times. And then if they didn't do it, I would get frustrated, both in my career, in my work life, in my businesses, and in my personal life. And I'm like, okay, well, that's number 1, a really short fuse, right? Because people have their own lives going on. They got their own priorities. And my asking might not jump to their number 1 priority list. I can't remember, my dad used to always have a saying, and I can't remember where he got it. It sounds like a motivational speaker saying that he learned at 3M. Piss poor planning does not create, on your part, does not create an emergency on my part. And he taught my sisters and I that when we were pretty young, which was really good because we had to learn from the consequences of our own choices and decisions and behaviors at a really young age, when the cost of learning those things was pretty small compared to how it can be as adults out in the real world. So step 1 is to identify the emotion. Once we identify the emotion, we need to accept and acknowledge what it is that we're feeling it, and that it's okay to feel it without judgment. So you want to, okay, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm noticing this. I'm acknowledging it. What next? Step 3 is to make small shifts upward on the emotional guidance scale or system so that you can have a slightly better feeling. Part of the power of this tool is that we don't jump from frustration to joy and love and light and appreciation. We make incremental changes up the scale to whatever feels okay for us, so that we're gradually improving and continually improving and increasing our vibration to higher levels of frequency that then will match what we want to attract from the world. None of us really want to attract negative feelings and more negative feelings, but if that's where we're vibrating and spending our energy, that's what we're going to attract. And it'll come in ways that we can't even imagine. And it works the other way too. Good things will come in ways that we can't even imagine when we get our vibration and our energy up to the higher levels of frequency. So that's why we want to do it. So if I'm looking at frustration at 10, frustration, irritation, impatience, all very much the same energy for me, I would reach for a feeling like maybe pessimism. Oh, I don't know that I'm ever going to figure this out, or I don't know if they're ever going to do what I ask, because that feels a little bit better than frustration, right? Pessimism to me is just a little bit less negative or a less heavy feeling than frustration. Then I could say, okay, well, I'm sick and tired and bored with feeling frustration when it doesn't do me or anybody else any good, right? So maybe I can just accept the situation and feel contentment. Well, if I feel content and I'm okay with what is, all of a sudden I'm hopeful that I can feel better. And then I can go to optimism, positive expectations, and belief that, yes, I too can change and not feel frustrated. I can redefine and choose not to feel frustrated at all. etc. And we work our way up the scale till we are at a level of joy, acceptance, appreciation, love, freedom, etc. All right, so step 4 is use thought reframing. A lot of times what we're feeling, we feel it, and then we name it in our head and we define it, and we realize that thoughts and beliefs from the past are coming up. And so we want to think about those and replace those negative associations we have with any feeling, because every feeling we have is here to teach us and show us something about ourselves. So if I'm feeling frustrated, that is showing me continually that I am having expectations that are not realistic. They're not grounded in any sense of reality in terms of my current environment and situation. So I'm just going to continue to feel frustrated until I reframe and change my thoughts and my perspective about what it actually is going on. And the truth is, what actually is just is. And if I judge it as something negative, I'm going to feel negative and frustrated about it. If I choose to reframe and change my perspective and say, hey, this just is what it is, how am I going to choose to react and respond to it? And I can then reclaim my personal power and make a decision and a choice that's best and right for me. And then finally, step 5, incorporate mindfulness practices into our daily life and into all the time. The more present we are in the current situation, the less multitasking we're doing, which is super duper hard for some of us, and for some of us women especially, the more present we are in the current situation, the easier it is for us to identify what's being triggered in us, what emotions are being triggered, and whether they're in alignment with who we are and what we want to be and how we want to show up, or not in alignment with us. And we're always seeking to be more aligned with who we authentically truly are. That's our nature as human beings. So how can we, let's share a couple of people's stories, and then, because I'm talking about my own, and I think I like to do that because it makes me feel better, but I'm not sure that everybody can relate to my situation and my stories. So let's talk about Marcus. Marcus, magnifying glass, I need you. Marcus was consumed with anger and blame after a divorce. He got divorced. Anybody else? Yeah. I guess I would say I wasn't consumed with anger and blame, but I was actually mostly angry at myself that I had made a bad choice. But that's a story for another day. So, but he was super duper mad about it and angry and blaming his ex on the divorce, etc. And maybe it was her fault. I don't know. He didn't tell me the story. But he and we worked through using the emotional guidance system. He recognized that his next step wasn't forgiveness, but simply discouragement. So he looked at the thing and he was angry and blaming. And that is, of course, on number 10, I believe. Yep. I don't know what blame is. I don't even see blame on here. Yeah. They're both at 12. They're both at the bottom of the lowest possible frequency. And so he realized that he didn't have to jump all the way to joy. He could work his way up to feeling a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. And that's how I know if something is for me or not. If I think something, a thought even, or a belief or a feeling, and I feel light about it or lighter about it or positive or good in any way, then I know that's for me and in alignment with who I am. If I feel negative or heavy or like something's a little off with a thought or a belief or a feeling, then I know that that's not in alignment with who I really am, and I want to question that and say, okay, well, can I reach for a slightly better feeling thought? So that's what he did. And he realized, I lost my sheet, that discouragement felt slightly lighter and better for him. So by gradually moving to boredom and contentment, he eventually reached appreciation for the lessons that he actually learned from that relationship, opening space for new and healthy relationships. Because, you know, the people, I always wondered, how can people be married and divorced like 3, 4, 5 times? And I think it's because they didn't learn the lessons from their first marriage the first time, so they do it again and again and again, and they continue to repeat the patterns and grow. Hopefully they grow through, so that by the time they hit the 3rd or 4th or 5th marriage, it's going to work for them because they've become the person they need to be and picked a partner that matches that person they need to be to have a happy, healthy relationship. Okay, let's look at Linda's situation. Linda moves from insecurity to joy. Linda had battled lifelong insecurity about her abilities. Through consistent use of the EGS, she practiced shifting from insecurity to worry, then to pessimism, and eventually to optimism. And once you hit optimism, you start to roll up fast. That's in my experience anyway. These shifts improved her self-talk, always a big one for most of us, leading her to pursue a passion project. And today she lives in a state of joy and empowerment, something she thought was impossible before learning about the emotional guidance system. And so I encourage you to hang your graphic where you're going to see it, on your bulletin board, in a room you're in all the time, by your desk, by your bed, so that you can look at it and think about it every morning. And let's talk about some of the daily practices we can do to really help us use this scale to the best of our ability. Number one, do a morning check-in. When you wake up, first thing when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, where am I on the emotional guidance system? How do I feel right now? Some days, I don't know about you, but sometimes I think I have bad dreams, and I'll wake up either fearful or scared or doubtful about something, and I check in and I'm like, okay, well, that's not how I want to have this day go, and so I'll shake that off. Maybe I'll do a little meditation or listen to a quick hypnosis or something, but then I'll check in again and I'll be like, okay, what feeling am I feeling now? And it's almost, well, it is always better than the one I woke up with if it was a negative, heavy feeling. So do a morning check-in and see how that works in terms of moving up and using the emotional guidance system to become the best possible version of yourself. Another thing that I encourage, and I've talked about it, and we'll talk about it thousands and thousands of times, is a gratitude practice. A gratitude practice doesn't have to be a full-fledged gratitude journal. It just has to be me asking myself, or you asking yourself, what are 3 things I'm grateful for right now? And I do that every morning and every night before I go to bed. Why? Because it reinforces that life is really awesome if we look at the good and the awesome in it versus all the negativity that we're fed from all sides all day long. Third, you can use and do mindful breathing. And this is one of the things I'm teaching my granddaughters. When you're upset about something, focus on your breath. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth, hold it a couple of seconds, count. I also teach them counting, tap, 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 and tap once more, to give themselves a little breather and a break before they respond or react. So mindfulness breathing, and there's all sorts of breath work. Just Google it and you can find literally thousands and thousands of different types of breath work that people teach. Reframe setbacks. Setbacks, obstacles, challenges are here to show us something and teach us something, or to slow us down from making a mistake, etc. So reframe them as opportunities to learn and grow, or stepping stones versus failures. I removed failures, or the possibility of failure, from my life probably 2 decades ago. The only way you can fail is to quit. And so to me, it's impossible for me to fail because I never quit. And then track your progress. Find a way. You can keep an emotional journal or a mood journal. We haven't talked about that yet, but we will, to monitor over time and see the progress that you're making, the shift that you're making from. You can actually turn yourself from a pessimist to an optimist. You can turn yourself and create any identity that you want by using this emotional guidance system. All right, any questions about this? What are we going to do today? We are going to do this process. We're going to pay attention to and identify an emotional state. We're going to accept and acknowledge it without judgment. We're going to make a small step upward in how we feel, and we're going to ask ourselves, does this feel better and lighter than what I'm feeling? And if it does, we're going to attempt to feel that during the day, and we're going to find ways to feel that. And we're going to move up and up and up until we get to the point where we're like, okay, I can live with this today. And then we're going to use thought reframing, because a lot of times a feeling that we have, an inkling, we turn it into something negative with the thoughts that we apply. And if we look at those thoughts and say, okay, wait a minute, is that true? Is that always true for me? No. So let's think a better thought, and that will help us to feel a better feeling, etc. And by better, I mean lighter. And lighter, I mean up the emotional guidance scale. All right. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow.